Welcome to another episode of Command Control Power. How are you guys doing?
Woohoo! Doing well, man.
All right.
Hanging in.
So I've got a little bit of a topic to start us off here. I am playing with new monitors.
Multiple?
So yeah, well, okay. So I prefer one screen. I used to recommend back in the day, and I had different setups with multiple screens, but I like one big screen, at least given my current kind of setup here. It's just much easier to have one screen um, rather than having like two side by side or whatever the alternatives are. Now, Jerry and I especially have talked about making these recommendation pages on our websites, with a link to Amazon products for those sweet commissions, which, are like add up to a few dollars basically every once in a while.
By
Um,
lunch.
yeah, it's every little bit helps. Why not? If I'm already recommending stuff through Amazon, why not? Why not get a little bit of credit for it? And monitors are pretty decent. Pretty high ticket item. Maybe a good place to kind of pad those commissions a little bit and juice that income, depending on your scale. Because for me, it's like I recommend hardware once in a while. It's not like constant, but
Yeah.
but it's nice to have it there because I do find like a lot of times people are asking me, and a lot of times they don't want to spend the money on the Apple stuff, right? So it's nice to have the a third party recommendation, and it's
hmm
nice to recommend one that that I've had experience with, that I can speak to from experience. So okay, so I had a 27-inch monitor, the Dell UltraSharp U2723QE, whatever that means. I guess
Yeah,
it means
I have no idea.
I think it means it's a 27-inch model, and it came out in 2023, and QE means, whatever, ultra high def or something. So it's a 27-inch 4K display, and I was, decently happy with it. But I had a client actually come to my home office, which is very rare. They are a friend, and so they came to visit in Boulder, and my client kind of monitor shamed me a little bit, and so this must have planted the seed. She said to me, um, "Oh, is that your only monitor?" It's like I'm like, wow. So, because they have, I've helped them set up four large studio displays because they sit with clients and do like reviews of their photography shoots and things, and so they
Oh,
have
your
the two big.
photography friend.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so they have these two big screens up there. They mirror them and whatever. Then they have the two small, so they have four, like two wall mounted and two on the desk. It's a beautiful setup. And then in their studio, they each have like the non client facing ones. They each have two displays. So they're very used to the like 227-inch kind of display setup. And here I am, their tech consultant with one, measly 27-inch display. So, I'm sure Jerry can already hear some of the justifications, happening in my mind. So fast forward, I have a reach out. I have a contact from a brand new client. We haven't even worked with her yet, but she mentions this ultra wide display. Have you guys played with these ultra wide displays yet? Does that ring any
No.
bells? Okay. Jerry, how about you? I don't know if you're there. I see a frozen image. Okay, guess.
Yeah, I don't think he's there.
So
Yeah.
no, I'm
Oh,
here. I'm connected
Okay.
via Ethernet, so I'm not sure why I'm frozen with you right now. No, Joe, I haven't. I'm assuming you guys have seen me for this whole time, so that's interesting too.
No, yeah, you're just glitched out.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's a freeze frame. You don't look terrible. You're just a little fuzzy. So
Yeah.
we'll pretend we see your mouth moving. We'll fix
All
it in
right. Well,
post.
I'll
Yeah.
unjoin
We'll
and
add a little
rejoin.
mouth. Oh,
Oh, there you go. I see you now. Okay.
yeah.
So Jerry, have you used any widescreen monitors or worked with any clients, that
I
use
have
these
not.
big?
No.
Okay. So I've, come to find out, did a little bit of research on this. It is they call them ultra wide monitors, basically. So it's a new aspect ratio.
Oh
Widescreen is
yeah.
basically 16 by 9. And I guess ultra wide is like 21 by 9. So that's the kind of the aspect ratio. So this client alerts me to this 34-inch Dell UltraSharp 34 monitor. It's the U3425WE. So the 25 in there, I think, means it just came out this year. I looked it up. It is recommended by the Wirecutter, and I thought, in the back of my head, I've got this client, their comment, about my little 27-inch display, little 27-inch display. And I'm thinking, let me try a new, the other thing. So then like a couple weeks go by and I find myself doing a series of remote upgrades for clients. So I don't know how you guys roll, but when I have a small office of, 5 to 10 Macs sitting in an office somewhere, maybe spread out in a couple different locations, and a new Mac OS comes out, and a few months go by and we start to recommend the new Mac OS, we then start to recommend to those clients that, hey, it's time to upgrade. And we can handle that for you. And it's usually about, 15 minutes billable per machine, something like that. You guys may disagree, but I find it's worth my time to do that. I can do a few at once. Maybe I set aside a window after hours, which works in my favor because I'm 2 hours behind East Coast time where most of my clients are. So, I'm here. It's still like just toward the end of my workday, but it's after hours for them. And I can set aside a window of 2 to 3 hours, maybe longer, depending on the size of the client, and just do a few at a time. I'm doing them as much in parallel as I can. And again, the billable time ends up being, if it's a handful of Macs, it's a couple hours, whatever. So it works out. I might as well get
Yeah.
the billable time for that, right? And
Sure.
how do you roll, Sam? I don't know if you do that for clients remotely, or if you have somebody on your team do it, but do you go through and like open apps and kind of like what's your process on that?
Well, I think, well, I used to do it like that, but I think what I like to do now is via the MDM, like send the users a prompt and then just say, screw it, you do it kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But I also like having a deadline so that they have like the
Sure.
end goal that they can do it on.
Yep.
But yeah, it depends on like if we have hourly clients, then it's a little bit different. I think we'll usually bill if we have multiples, like a half hour of time per device.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a little, it can vary like that. And I might even say it's about 15 to 30 minutes per device, depending on the client, because some of them are really straightforward. It's mostly built-in apps, mostly, Apple supported stuff. In a few cases, it's more complex. And so depending on like what they're using, you have to jump through a bunch of hoops from Apple about, like going from even Sonoma to Sequoia, you've got to prove local network access. So, hey, who's using local network access? Well, it turns out, Sonos is a big one. If they, I have a retail store, they have Sonos on all their different Macs to be able to control this stuff. So you have to open up Sonos and say, yeah, allow local network access. Obviously, again, I'm rolling my eyes at Apple because it's like, Apple shouldn't be surprised that like people are using Sonos. Like I'm sure they have metrics that say, 5% of Macs have Sonos running and it was opened, in the last month or something. It's like they could just, be like, hey, Sonos, can we grant you an exception to allow you just to like let this work? Can we audit your code? I don't know what they would need to do to like come to an agreement where they just get local network access, because it's like kind of fundamental to what they do,
Yeah, right.
It's like I don't know why I'm clicking that for Sonos. Here's one I hadn't noticed recently was granting Firefox local network
Local
access.
network. Yeah.
Yeah, because turns out a different client uses Firefox. A few people in the office use Firefox primarily, and they have a time clock where they punch in and punch out. And so they try to, they load it over an IP address because this thing was installed by a previous consultant 20 years ago. And we're like, hey, this thing's probably insecure. You really should replace it. And they're like, well, we don't like to spend money. So we just throw our hands up. So we support this. And, they have the bookmark and they click it and and Firefox gives a message like, hey, you've got to allow local network access. And sure enough, that's actually helpful. You go in and you allow that. The funny thing is, if it doesn't load because of a different reason, like in a different case after granting local network access, the time clock stopped working like 2 days later. And I had to walk them through power cycling it because it was just basically off the network. In that situation, though, Firefox is like, hey, did you grant local network access? So they're still suggesting that as the issue, even though it's just not even responding at all, because obviously they can't tell if it's just offline. But there's little glitchy things like that. So to me, that justifies like why I would do it rather than just having the client do it, especially like you said, Sam, in a case where it's hourly billing, I might as well get paid for it.
Yeah.
But also to save them the trouble, because they're inevitably going to call me if they do it themselves. They will call me and say, hey, this isn't working or that's not working. And if there's 20 people that upgrade all at once, them, we might be inundated if they just randomly pick a day and just do that, and like I'm off and it's just him, or vice versa. So that's another reason I justify like I should do this so we can proactively handle this stuff, and then we're not like scrambling when you're calling us and you're waiting 2 hours because we're not immediately available or whatever. So it's, long story short, it's good to handle this. So
Yeah.
in those jobs, I have like maybe 6 Macs up at once using Adigy Live Desktop. So I've got screen sharing open, I've got all these windows open, and I've got a 27-inch display, 4K, and those
Not good enough,
those,
Joe.
yeah, it's not good enough. Those windows get pretty small, so I'm like squinting and craning my neck and all. So, Jerry, how am I doing with my justifications so far for this?
No, I could definitely see where you're going with this, and you've got some remuneration coming back on you having a larger monitor. So I'm going to let you do this, Joe. I'm going to approve this purchase.
He's going to let you do
I
it.
like
I love
this.
As a
it.
matter of fact, I'm going to sign off right now. Hold on.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So you're signing the
Yep.
my receipt that I submitted for billing. Okay, good.
Mhm.
You signed my
I
pad
approve
for that.
I'm approving
appreciate
this
that.
purchase.
I'm keeping this on file. Then maybe one day I'll get a rubber stamp of that signature. Just so yeah. So I went with this Dell Ultra Sharp monitor. Now you may notice in the name, right? Ultra Sharp. Well, I've got news for you. It's not sharp at all. It's not sharp
Really?
enough at all. Yeah. So I mean, listen, I'm 45 years old. I wear glasses every day. I have my text set pretty small in a lot of cases because I can see it with as long as I'm wearing my glasses. Certainly not without. So my default font in a lot of places, like for mail, was like 12. Helvetica 12, right? And that was fine on the 27-inch 4K. Not good on the 34-inch 4K. Even though it's called an ultra sharp, again, not ultra sharp. It's like fuzzy. It's ultra fuzzy, actually. 14-point Helvetica, still not really doing it for me. Now, so this was immediately an issue, and it almost, I thought about just boxing it back up again and just like, going back in time, but I thought, let me play with this a little bit. So here's what I've kind of discovered. I had to adjust a bunch of settings. So the sharpness of the monitor in the built-in monitor like menu thing was 50%, whatever that means.
Okay.
Even though they say ultra sharp, right? They have sharpness set to 50. It's unrelated, but whatever. I set it to 90 or 100%, which to me seems much better. So each pixel may be like, like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like too few pixels to make up those really tiny letters, but by setting it to be sharper, each pixel is like less blurry, basically. So it did help a little. It doesn't make up for a low DPI, right? But I did find that increasing it was better. Even though Google's AI overview recommended turning down the sharpness for whatever reason, and I found other references to the same. So I found turning it up was better for me. I had to adjust the text smoothing. So do you remember when LCD monitors came out, and in the Apple GUI, I think it was like in the system preferences general section, you have a checkbox to like turn on LCD font smoothing, which would use like sub-pixel, rendering to increase the, the perceived resolution or just make the fonts smoother and less pixelated. Some people recommended turning that off with Retina displays. So I actually tried turning it off, and that was way worse. And then I turned it back on to the default, which is 2. So you set with it. You don't have a setting anymore in the GUI, so you have to use a defaults write command, and you have to specify current host, which I don't know what host refers to. If that's like your I don't know. Sam, do you know about this? Like sometimes you can find preferences that are associated with like your host. And I
Oh,
don't
the
know if it's
by
like a
host?
network. Yeah, by host or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I asked Sam because you're Mr. Apple, but yeah.
No, but I don't know if that's been like a current thing for a while. I remember the by host preferences. I think it mattered with some stuff like maybe Adobe. I can't remember, but
Yeah, and like network settings or something like it different. Yeah, it's something to do. I don't even know what host means. I think it's like related to which network interface or something like that, but could be totally wrong there. So it's a default. So it's defaults dash current host right dash global domain Apple font smoothing, so that's the setting, and then it's integer dash int. 2 is the default. I found that setting it to 3 was better for me, so that was an improvement as well. Then you're down to like font sizes. So, you know, some apps have a built-in zoom option, like the Notes app has a zoom option to just like, you know, you're not changing the format of the note, but you're just like zooming in, you know, so if it's like specified as Helvetica 12, you can adjust the zoom to be larger, and then that definitely looks much better. Same thing, obviously, like I'm sure we've all used this in Safari. You know, you zoom in on a website. Calendar has this option. Mail kind of does. Like we've all helped clients probably in Mail where they're like, I can't see. You know, I need like a 32-point font. But they don't. You know, it's tough because then you're like sending emails when you're composing an email in like. I mean, I literally have clients that are probably like 25-point type or something.
Really?
So they can read it, but then like I receive the email and it's like this huge text, So that's the issue with Mail. But so none of this is really perfect. I just want a high res display. That's really the solution. Okay. I needed to adjust contrast, all this stuff made a marginal improvement, but it's very tedious. Adjusting the zoom, it's per app. Then I will disconnect from my monitor and go work from a coffee shop for a while or on location or whatever. And I'm using the built-in Retina display, which is my 14-inch MacBook Pro display. And those zoom settings are not appropriate for that display. Suddenly I can't see everything in Slack. It's like, the columns are like, the column of like where the actual thread is like too small because everything's zoomed in now for my
It doesn't
big display.
adjust, huh?
No, it doesn't. Yeah. I know. There's probably a third-party app. I'm sure Jerry.
That's what I was going to say to you, Joe,
See?
that there's...
There you go.
Yeah, there's third-party apps that can set profiles for, these different settings that you need.
That might be helpful. I mean, if I were keeping... So I'm teasing the next, section of my conversation here, but if I were keeping this display, I'd probably be looking into that because that occurred to me that, this is just crazy, like trying to adjust window size. I even heard you guys recorded a show without me, how rude, recently. And I was just listening to it. And Sam, you were saying, you're so lazy, as you put it, your words, not mine, that you leave your Mac in clamshell mode just to avoid like Windows resizing and, all the little vagaries of like, unplugging it and now it's just the built-in monitor, and then close it and now plug it in and everything moves and you've got to like fix it all, right?
I used a second laptop for that reason.
Yeah, just buy a new laptop for that. Well, you already had one. But yeah, so I was even thinking like, man, do I need a Mac Mini? No, this is crazy. Let me go back to, okay, let's get the right monitor. So I look into, let me take a step back. Why do I want a Dell? Why don't I just get, I'm talking about an $800 monitor here. I'm getting close in price to like a studio display, certainly like a used one or refurbished or something. The issue is
all the kids like Adele.
Yeah. Oh, I see what you did there. Yeah.
My daughter listens to Adele.
Yeah, she's got a beautiful voice, Adele. And the Dell monitors are all over the place because again, my previous 27-inch 4K, right? Based on the size of the screen and the 4K, the pixel, like the DPI was actually good. It was good. It was certainly good enough for me. But this one is much lower. So, you've got, again, 34-inch Dell Ultra Sharp. They call it, let me see if I'm right here. They call it a 5K display. But again, you've got such a big like screen. It's just physically huge dimensions that even at, quote unquote 5K, it's just not enough pixels. So I looked into all this stuff, all the specs. There's two that come to mind. So pixel pitch and pixels per inch, right? DPI or PPI. So pixel pitch, I think, measures like how far apart the spacing is of each pixel. And if there's like kind of a little bit of a gap in between each pixel, like the grid there. But most people are more familiar with pixels per inch. So that's what I'm going to focus on. So the pixels per inch of this 34-inch monitor, it's 110 PPI. Now, Retina is like 300 or something like that, depending on how close you are to the display. So for Apple, I believe their kind of rules are like, it depends on the size of the display and like how far away you typically hold it. Like a phone would be closer to you than a monitor. So a monitor being farther away can have a lower PPI pixel density than the phone would, and still be called a Retina. But 110 for a monitor is way too low, unless you're changing the whole interface to give you much less screen real estate, which defeats the whole purpose of why I wanted a larger display. For comparison, my prior 27-inch Dell Ultra Sharp, same product line, non-ultra wide, just the standard, like, standard monitor size, has a PPI of 163.18. So that's what I'm kind of comparing it to in my memory, and that was good enough for me. That was great. The new one is again 110, which is way too low. Now I'm considering, and let's see if Jerry can validate my justification here. Now I'm considering the 40-inch Dell Ultra Sharp. Okay, this is the U4025 QW.
Sam, wake me up when this is over, would you please?
So they call this the 5K 2K class, WUHD. So Jerry's now fully asleep.
I think no. Sam and I are going to take a collection. We're going to buy this for you and just move on.
Cut to the chase. Yeah, exactly. So the PPI of the 40-inch, the reason I'm even considering it, because I don't need 40 inches like that. My desk is not this big, right? The DPI or PPI, I should say, is 140. So to me, the 140 PPI is
40 more.
Yeah,
no, 30 more than 110.
30 more. Right, but it's only like...
Wait, I was still doing the calculations, Jerry. You didn't give me a chance.
It's less than 20 PPI away from the monitor that I had. And also, given that it's 40 inches, I won't be as close to it, typically. I think I will push it back a little bit because it would be huge. So I'm thinking of now trialing that one and returning this one. In worst case, I'll just go back to my original. Part of the reason I'm dealing with all this stuff and willing to first of all, it's easy to return stuff on Amazon. So I knew I could just send this back if I wanted to. And also, like, I have a very decent, like 2-year-old or 1.5-year-old or something previous Dell monitor that I can also just sell on eBay. So I can recoup some of the expense. The main goal is like get a system that's going to be efficient enough for me to do these, jobs where I have like 6 or 10, windows up on screen at one time.
I think from all of this, Joe, we've determined you are high maintenance when it comes to displays. I think that's the end result. Comparing the PPI and
yeah. No, exactly. I'm scrutinizing all these settings. But the thing is, it's also giving me a good insight because I have a client who actually bought the same ultra wide screen, 34-inch monitor that I now have. She bought it independently and she just told me that it's fuzzy. And I'm like, yeah, it is. And I'm now aware, fully through all of the time that I've spent adjusting settings and trying to mitigate this fuzziness, it's not really like a software thing. If you're reading text on screen, it's going to be fuzzy. If you're looking, like I'm looking at, Sam's video right now, Jerry's a little blurry because of whatever, backups he's running or whatever's happening to degrade them. It's just a little fuzzy, Jerry, but no offense. Maybe it's a soft focus. I don't know. But Sam looks, clear. Like there's no complaints about like the video. And
last time you guys said I was blurry. So who knows?
Yeah. Who knows? I mean, so looking at photos, looking at, websites with text that's large enough to just kind of read from a distance, it all looks fine. It's really just the small, like under maybe like 16 point, Helvetica or whatever that's problematic. And you really can't tell. I mean, I guess you can tell it. Let's say if it's under 140 PPI, it's probably going to look fuzzy at those font sizes.
All joking aside, I don't think that I see those. Maybe it's my eyes, but I don't see those little differences. Just to give you an idea of how clueless I am about these monitors. You asked us at the start of this, do you have any experience with ultra wide? So I looked at my monitor. I have an ultra wide. I said no.
Oh, okay. Which model do you have?
I have a Samsung 34-inch curved display. I didn't know it was considered the ultra wide category. That's why I wasn't.
Okay.
I just checked it out, but I have to see the model number. But it is definitely a downgrade.
Size.
What?
Tell me the size and pixel dimensions as well.
34. I don't know the pixel. I got to look up the model, but I don't know the pixel dimensions. 34-inch.
Okay, so same as mine. And then if you
Yeah.
look in like your displays preferences, because this was the other thing. So I can change mine to high DPI, which is awesome. It looks beautiful, but it only gives you effective resolution of 1720 by 720, like literally 720, pixels top to bottom. That's nowhere near enough. The default for this display is 3440 by 1440. That's a lot of pixels, but again,
That's
it's
mine.
a 34-inch
Yeah.
display, the same as yours.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
So
I
you know
do
mine
see it.
though.
I do
Yeah.
see a difference. And like, if I look at obviously my built-in display versus this, it's definitely different in clarity, but I don't really have, I mean, I guess I blow things up a little bit bigger. You're using smaller fonts like than I do. So because my eyes have degraded over time,
I mean, I'm
but
willing to, maybe you can convince me here. Like, how are you mitigating this? Like, you must be using fonts that are like 16 points and up or something. Like, if you're
yeah,
in mail, and you're reading an email coming from a client here, like, I mean,
yeah. I
you
mean,
know,
like, I'm just looking at the different, like I'll go to like Outlook and stuff. They're not that big actually, the font size, and I can check at the settings for
Can
Outlook,
we
but
you're in
can we
Outlook.
talk about
Yeah,
like
go ahead.
what size monitor though, Sam, are you looking at? Because I think that's a big
Oh yeah,
determiner here.
it
So
is.
yeah.
like, are you on a 27? Is that the
No, I was saying it's 34-inch ultra wide is
So
mine.
same as mine. Yeah.
Yeah.
okay?
And yeah, I mean, yeah, actually my font sizes are not big in Outlook, for instance. They're quite small actually. But if I use Code Runner, for scripting, it's a little bit bigger. But I get into the habit sometimes because I have the accessibility settings for Zoom, so I like
Yeah.
control zoom in on things all the time. So I not like every time, but like when I really
Sure.
need it. And I suppose, this is just an okay monitor. It wasn't super expensive, but it did the
Yeah.
job for me. I mean, I'm like joking, of course, with you about this, but maybe you have an eye for it more than I do, because I don't see that big of a difference.
I don't know, man. It's hard to go back. Like if you're used to like sharp text that's small, I mean, maybe you'll get used to it, but it's like you said, it's never going to compare to the Retina display until we get like, Retina 30-inch plus monitors. There really
Yeah.
aren't any that are like Retina quality that I know of anyway. I mean, the Apple, what size is the Apple the
Studio.
really no the expensive one, the whatever the heck it's called.
Well, I don't know. We'll
They're
look
both
because
expensive, but I got to spend $5,000 on the what is it called? The why can't I think of the name of that stupid monitor? Um,
I mean, Jerry and I were going to look anyway, because as he said, we're going to,
yeah,
all
just
chip in and
chip in
buy
and
you
buy
one.
me. This is really. I'm just trying to wear you guys down, just like belaboring this whole conversation, so you just buy me a new monitor. That's kind of my angle now. Pro Display XDR. Okay, thank you. I don't know if somebody. I looked it up. Nobody posted that in the chat, but thank you anyway. But Pro Display XDR. It's
Oh,
a
yeah, chat's
32
asleep.
inch. Okay, 32. They probably are. 32-inch 6K Retina display. So
Get
I
what you
think
pay
if
for.
yeah, exactly. I mean, you've got to pay for this kind of, expensive monitor. I mean, this thing was
Well,
five
you
grand when
have
it
to.
came out. Yeah, I guess I
I'm
have
not.
to. But
I'll
so this
stick
is
with my
Well,
Samsung.
this would
Go ahead.
be also a good thing to like shoot into ChatGPT to see if they could find you
Oh,
something that, in terms of the PPI, because I bought right before the holiday, I bought a LG 27-inch monitor that sometimes I use. And I
hmm
have dealt with other monitors in the past where I'm seeing the same thing that you've seen, or I've installed them for customers and they're fuzzy.
yeah.
So I didn't know what my pixel density was. According to the one that I bought, and it's an LG, it's 27-inch. I think it was 389, good price. It's 163 PPI calculated
Okay.
from 4K resolution over 27-inch is
Yeah.
what they say.
Nice. Yeah. Which is
So
probably the same exact type of panel as my previous Dell, because it was the
mhm.
same, 27 inches, 4K, 163. That's a pretty good sweet spot, because
Yeah.
that's, so then if you go to this massive, Pro Display XDR 32-inch, is a 6K display, which again, 6K, 5K, 4K, it really like the number of K, whatever, thousand of pixels that you need is highly dependent on the size of the monitor, to your point. Like it just depends on the size of the panel, like what size, 4K, 5K, whatever you need to get actual retina quality.
Mhm.
This one is 218 PPI. That's
Hmm.
the Pro Display XDR. So that's an awesome, awesome, awesome panel. It's also $5,000 without without the ability to adjust, right? Or what's the no? Let's see. ProStan and VSMount adapter sold separately. Oh, the nano texture glass is 6K, right? So standard glass, no, nothing special, $5,000. So that's
I'd
just
say go for it, Joe.
it's way more than I can spend on this. The other reason for me, and again, this is my college dorm living over here. We have my desk, my home office is basically our living room. And so the one big monitor that I have in here is our TV as well. So I have an Apple TV hooked up to the back of it. It's very easy to switch back and forth. I just basically, sleep my display of my Mac and press a button on the Apple remote, and the monitor switches to the Apple TV. So it's like a very elegant setup.
Just like a boss.
Yeah, I mean, the sound output is our little home pod. So like it's all just integrated and great. I don't have to buy a TV that's separate and like maintain a separate system for that. But that means that, Apple's monitors don't work for me because they have one input, and that's for a Mac, right? And that's it. So there's no HDMI. Maybe there's an HDMI splitter that like, gives me like a Thunderbolt input and an HDMI. And I mean, maybe there's a third party way to do it, but I don't want to mess with that and just adds more expense. So that's why I'm looking at Dell monitors, and I'm thinking of trying the 40-inch monitor, which is larger than I need, but 140 PPI is probably, going to be good enough, certainly much better than the 110.
Right, but there must be, if you charted this out, and again, I'm not an expert at this by any stretch, as you increase the size of the screen, the higher the number of PPI you need to just stay where you were with the 27-inch that you were using with 160, let's say. So as you bump up size, you got to commensurately increase the pixel density.
Not the pixel density, but yes, the number of pixels. So
pixels
as you increase
per inch.
from the number of pixels. So if you go from 27-inch to 30 inches, you need a lot more pixels to have the same pixel density. And this 34-inch display that I'm rocking now has more pixels,
like a boss,
but not enough more pixels to give me the same PPI as I had before. It dramatically reduces it. So I don't think I would need a higher PPI. I would need the same PPI, which if you translate the same PPI to a larger size, that's like a massive number of pixels, and they just don't make panels with that many pixels, basically, other than this Apple 6K one, at that size. But that's why, again, this is very promising that this 40-inch has 140 PPI. Because again, so that the pixel dimensions, just for comparison, to put numbers behind this, my previous 4K was 3840 by 2160. That's considered, that's 4K, and that's a 27-inch monitor, so that translates to 163 PPI. The 40-inch has 5120 by 2160, so it's the same number of like vertical pixels. But because of it's dramatically more pixels horizontally, because obviously it's also widescreen, that translates to 140 PPI. So less than the 160 I had before, but probably sufficient. The bottom line for me is I think you need a certain minimum PPI for it not to look fuzzy. And maybe, like Sam said, that depends on the person, but some clients are going to be much more affected by this than others.
Well, let me know what you buy. I'll just copy that when I get my next display.
I thought you were going to buy it, though. That's
Oh, yeah. Sorry. We're still raising money for that. My bad.
Okay. Yeah, let's start a little, can we do like a GoFundMe or something like that?
Sure. Joe needs a display. Have your photography client buy it for you.
So this also opens up this conversation about Apple TV. So in tvOS 18, Apple opened up more aspect ratios. So they now have the option for 21 8:9 pixel or aspect ratio, 21:9, which is ultra widescreen. And so I like went in and I set that, right? And then like the thing gives you a little test and it says like, if this doesn't work, just don't do anything and it'll go back to the way it was before. Or if this, if this looks okay, press okay, right? So it gives you that little option to like undo the previous resolution change in case your TV panel blanks out or something like that. So on that screen, it shows full screen. I'm like, this is great. It's taken up the whole wide screen now. This is really cool. As soon as you press okay, the Apple TV interface goes back to like, I don't know if you call it letterbox, but it's got the boxes on the side. So it's like inset on the sides. So I'm like, this is weird, right? So then I go into some of the apps that we use, Hulu, HBO, whatever. I'm testing, I'm looking for content. Like, show me something cool that's like takes up the whole screen. In Hulu, it was just not, it was the same thing. It was like, top to bottom, it's fine, but it's got two black bars on the sides, two pretty big black bars on the sides. In HBO, it was even worse because now it's like letterboxed and it's got big bars on the side. I'm like, okay, so I look it up. Oh, you've got the tap to zoom. You guys know about that, right? You just double tap on the, okay.
Yeah, but then you lose some of it when you use
right.
a little bit of the picture.
Depending on the app and depending on the format of the original stream, or the video, depending on how they shot the movie, depending on your panel, whatever. So yeah, that's true. But also most apps I found don't even support that. So HBO looks like if you just double tap, it should go to the top and bottom correctly. And then it should take up more of the sides, right? Or whatever. It looks like there's more room for the image, even top to bottom, and it just doesn't do anything. So
yeah, I mean, this is why this doesn't work. And you can't have because when you buy a smart TV or even a TV that's not smart, it does interpolation and it does upscaling. So it'll adjust it's smart enough to adjust the content or displaying the content to accommodate the size of the screen. And that's the logic that's missing from
this
monitor.
Dell, yeah, exactly.
And any monitor for that matter. It's not a TV, right?
Right. And
like Sam, that fancy pants TV that you bought last year, it's doing all kinds of interpolation and upscaling. I got the poor man's version. I got the the Yugo in the garage poor man's version.
I love the Yugos.
My friend Mr. Tesla's telling us.
My friend got into a little fender bender in high school with his Yugo. Just guy dinged him right in the back, and all four windows just went just like shattered in the whole car.
That's great.
God. Well, I actually like the monitor in compared to a TV in certain ways. Like it's a matte screen versus a glossy screen. I don't know. Maybe I'm old school thinking about old TVs, but a lot of those TVs are like reflective, and it's just it looks weird. Maybe it's not true. Okay,
they call it off-axis viewing, and most TVs can accommodate glare. They make TVs now that will accommodate bright rooms, off-axis viewing, and it works.
That was actually a big piece when I was doing my research, is because like my room gets a decent bit of sunlight sometimes, and it just really reflects off the TV. So the new TV doesn't do that anymore. It's pretty awesome.
Oh, very cool. Okay. All right, I got a little more research to do, and someday I'll have more space where we actually have a dedicated, room to relax in versus my home office where I can just have a monitor and then I can, buy the Apple Studio display and be done with it, or just whatever the new widescreen is at that point. But what Jerry said about these TVs, adjusting things, this is also apparently a feature in the Apple TV for. Like I learned the concept of anamorphic lenses, and some projectors have this, where essentially the Apple TV is like scaling the interface to actually be like less wide, but kind of compressed. And then the lens itself on the projector will like expand that out to like compensate for the squishing effect and fill the whole screen. So there's definitely like very particular setups that different people have that this feature is designed to help with, but it's not to just like, oh yeah, your ultra wide monitor is like all set now. Although I finally found some content that looks really good and it actually works in ultra wide. And I don't know if I'm missing, like you said, maybe it's pushing content up off the top of the screen. But the Apple TV app, the Apple TV Plus service, Foundation is great. I went and I never finished Foundation, so I went back to wherever it's like I liked it a lot, but then I just kind of trailed off. But it looks gorgeous. Like it takes up the full wide screen, which is really, really cool. And same thing with Severance is also like I think they shoot it in ultra widescreen, so they like
Mm-hmm.
have a version that will match that if your
Hmm.
TV supports it. So that's the ideal without any kind of weird zooming stuff going on. But yeah, that was the other layer to this was like, oh, actually in most cases we won't even get the full size of this screen when we're watching TV. So then it's just like, why do I have this big ultra wide screen when it's just black bars most of the time?
Yeah, that kind of sucks.
Yeah. So, but it does, again, it helps with overall screen real estate. It's just a little too fuzzy. So I'm going to try the 40-inch. I learned a lot. I hope you guys learned something too. And,
I'm gonna have to rewatch this one to learn all that stuff again.
yeah, all those specs I just dumped in the beginning there. Yeah. So we'll see. Also, by the way, my issues with reattaching my Mac to my monitor when I come back, I was complaining for like months about unplug the thing, come back, plug it in. Okay, I've got to shake it. I've got to open it. I've got to unplug it, replug it. I've got to try the
Being
other
a cat.
port. I got to turn the cable upside. I mean, I tried everything, right? That's not happening anymore with this monitor. So
Well, there you go.
Yeah, now I actually switched cables because my previous one was USB-C and this one is actually Thunderbolt. So that's another benefit of a modern monitor is that more of them are starting to actually support Thunderbolt, which gives you better features. So I went from like a 1 gig Ethernet port to 2.5, which is really nice, which I don't know if that would have been, it probably works over USB-C, but either way. And like you get really a hub. You can also choose to you can choose that the Ethernet port stays with like the Thunderbolt connection rather than switching to like if you have USB-C connected in addition to Thunderbolt, it can either switch to the machine that's connected or not. It has like an actual KVM built in. So there's some additional features you get with Thunderbolt, but I believe that, so it didn't seem to be working properly over USB-C, even with the previous cable that was working fine for my previous 27-inch. So I had to switch cables to an actual Thunderbolt 4 cable. And maybe that's what like solved the issue, a combination of the new monitor and or that Thunderbolt cable versus the USB-C cable. So in case anybody's having, issues like that with reconnecting your monitor, definitely check the cable. That seems to be a big part of it.
Yeah, I think in my case I tried a different cable and it was still shitty, but
yeah.
Well, I before we shift gears,
yeah,
I'm going to tell a joke.
Okay.
You guys ready? All right. What do you call a teacher who won't pass gas in public? A private tutor. Thank you. Thank you.
That's a nice one.
I heard that on the Smartless podcast. Actually, it was pretty funny.
Oh, it's a good show.
Yeah,
it's a good show.
I think they moved to a subscription base now. Actually, where like I don't know if you only get it ad free if you listen on subscription or what, but they're
interesting. I didn't know that.
They're great. Those guys just crack me up to no end.
They're
man.
super funny. Yeah.
Yeah. We aspire to be like them.
Yeah, exactly. We can't even get Jerry's video to animate as he's talking, so that's how old school we are. Maybe if I buy a bigger monitor, it'll work. Now I see you, Jerry. Now every time you talk, it works, and then
I'm looking great here. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Yeah, well, you'll see it in post production. It's delayed and glitchy, but
nice.
All right. Well, thanks for bringing the comedic comedy relief there. And Sam, that monitor control app, I forget if you told me about it or I told you about it.
I think you did.
But I have to say, it's really great. It works really well still with this monitor. And I don't know how people could use a third-party monitor without it. Because I'm adjusting brightness all the time. If it's gets brighter outside, lights on, lights off, whatever. Yeah.
I think
what is the difference between...
Yeah. Go ahead, Jerry.
What is the difference between the Monitor Control Lite and the Pro package that you pay for, Joe?
I don't pay for it.
Yeah, they have a Lite version in the App Store, and then I think there's a buy-in for it.
Interesting. Oh, yeah, I see that. I wonder if it's because of sandboxing. Like maybe it can't do all the features. I don't use this feature, but it can adjust volume. Like if you're using the speakers on the monitor, I guess it can adjust the volume. In addition to adjusting the brightness. I just use the brightness adjustment. even that, I forget. I think I needed to give it full keyboard access or something so it can like see
for the
the brightness
shortcuts.
keys. Yeah. So maybe that's not, I don't know if that's a Mac App Store thing or not. Maybe it's, related, but yeah, it's great. I don't even know if it's, I think it's like, I think you can just download it, and I want to say it's like free donation based or something, but yeah, it's really, really good. Monitor control.
I haven't, I find myself forgetting that I have it there. And then when I switched to my new computer, I just realized, while you were talking about it, Joe, I just realized it wasn't set to open at login anymore on the new computer. And I had to reestablish the accessibility and keyboard shortcuts. So now I got it running again.
Nice.
During the show.
Of course.
Live.
Yeah, I test everything during the show. I mean, why do it any other time?
Yeah, this is the time we have. At one point it stopped working, or it was getting glitchy for me, and as soon as I installed Patch said, "Hey, you need to update monitor control." So I tried to do it, it didn't work, and then I found that the reason it didn't work was that monitor control actually had an update. It's similar to the Backblaze issue. An update broke updates, so that you had to actually, like, if you did the update manually in monitor control, it showed you this like red text, and it was like, you have to go here and download. And like, I was like my clients, I didn't even read it, and I kept trying and it kept not working. So I finally went and I just had to re-download it. So if anybody out there is using it, check to make sure it's working, and you just have to, there are updates you have to manually install apparently. So
I was working with Unify. We used to talk about Unify a lot more, so I feel like I'll bring it back into the fold. But I was working with Unify recently because I had a couple of U7 Pros that crapped out on a network, and this was the same customer that I talked about months ago, where we had like the shorts in cable. We had to change out the plates for the coated plates and all that stuff. And it seemed like 2 of the APs just never came back up, and so finally we put in for a warranty, and this was like months later, and they took them back really easily. They were just like, sure, they took them back. The warranty process online, there was no human interaction, but it was pretty quick. Put in the MAC address and everything, and then within, I don't know, a week and a half, we had replacement devices. So all that was great in terms of experience, but I had an issue that I've seen, I want to say a couple of years ago, but this one was not easily resolvable. The U7 Pros that came in as generic devices on the network. Yeah, you guys have seen this before or no? Like they don't show up as Unify. They show up as a MAC address that's a generic device, so I can't adopt it.
That's weird.
Yeah, really weird.
I don't think I've seen that. Yeah.
And they had blue lights, meaning they were showing they were configured.
Oh.
So we tried resetting it. Well, actually, at first they were just they were blue lights and generic devices. Couldn't figure out. This is a remote, and they don't have any server on site or anything.
Blue light special.
Yeah. I went in remotely to one of the workstations there and SSH'd into the U7 Pro. I was able to SSH into it with the default credentials, and then I updated the firmware. Still no go. So yeah, it was really weird. We ended up having to physically take them down and do a hard reset on them, and which was a pain because they were already freaking mounted. I'm complaining it was a pain. I didn't do it, but someone else took it down for me, and someone on site, the maintenance person, and that ended up fixing. We erased them, got them back. They started flashing white again, and then we just got them updated, and it was all fine. But super weird. I've seen it once before, and usually a firmware update corrected it, but this time no go.
I don't think I've ever seen that. I was originally suspecting, because you said this was a warranty replacement. I would imagine they would send you new parts, but then why would it light up blue? Like you said, it was like already configured, but then it used the default credentials. So yeah.
But sometimes they do ship out, I think, certified refurbished, don't they?
I guess so.
Yep.
I have to say, knock on wood, preemptively here, I don't think I've ever had to. Okay, not ever, but like it's been like probably 4 or 5 years since I've had to send out for a warranty replacement. And we do a ton of Unify. Yeah. I mean, I don't know, maybe not at the same scale, that was a massive job, like way bigger than the jobs we do, but it seems to be like the pretty good QA, I would say, in my experience from them, in terms of hardware and stuff. But then again, you were dealing with, the fact that there's a metal plate, it's like sparking and whatever, like that's a whole other level of problem. But
that was crazy.
Yeah, that was wild.
I remember the suggestions of putting tape over the screws too, so that they don't touch.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, this is crazy.
Yeah. Great plan. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Hey, I've got a Unify thing started, as usual, dominate the show. But
Go for it.
since you mentioned the keyword of Unify, we've got 9 minutes left here. I thought this was pretty interesting. So have you guys ever seen let's unplug it and see if it still works. One of these devices, Terminal?
No.
So it's a little status board type thing. And you guys remember how my, love of status boards when I had my office, and I had this whole and so I still maintain a numbers. So my status board in my office was I had a projector. We did classes a couple of times. We would otherwise just use it as a status board, and it would just permanently display this big, image on a big wall in the office where everybody could see it, showing different things like the weather and all this stuff that was useful when you have an office. It was pretty cool. It was a fun project to maintain, and it would show things like upcoming holidays or like an Apple release, based on things we'd put on the calendar, and then the calendar tied into a status board widget that would plug in and blah blah blah. So anyway, now I maintain one for my own purposes. That's like my financial dashboard. So I track, billable hours by each consultant or subcontractor each week, which then there's a whole bunch of calculations in a spreadsheet that then averages that and whatever. So I have this numbers spreadsheet, and it's important to me to track for Tim's reference, how many hours he's billing on a weekly basis, because we want to keep it where it needs to be to bring in, revenue to pay the bills and whatever, and pay his salary and benefits and everything. So it'd be nice if I could have that appear on this status board Terminal thing. It's an e-ink display. I'm showing it in the video here for the users at home.
It's like an Etch-a-Sketch.
Yeah, exactly. It looks like an Etch-a-Sketch. It's a beautiful e-paper, e-ink, whatever display. And it's not supposed to just be showing their logo. It's supposed to be showing some other stuff, which it stopped doing randomly for whatever reason. I've got to fix that. But they've got a bunch of built-in widgets and things. And so I have things on there like, the local weather, and whatever else. And when it stopped working just recently, I looked into what's going on there, and I went to their website, and they have a little thing explaining if you're an Eero customer, blah, 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 if you're a Unify customer. And they have this quote, and I thought this was a really good way to explain what this issue is with Unify networks with 2.4 gigahertz, IoT, like Internet of Things, why do you need a separate network for Internet of Things devices? Because I thought, if it's broadcasting the 2.4 gigahertz network and it's broadcasting the 5 gigahertz network, and the device is supposed to say, hey, I want to connect to the 2.4. I don't even have a 5 gigahertz radio. Why doesn't that work reliably? Many devices it does work. In other devices, it doesn't work, and you have to set up this network. Why is that? So this is the first time I've actually read an explanation of this. Terminal, the company that makes this little device, says, without a proper setup, your router's default feature, quote, band steering, will direct terminal devices to leverage the 5 gigahertz band, which will not work, even if you connect it to 2.4 gigahertz during setup. So that's the issue. It's band steering. I never knew that. Maybe you guys already knew this, but I didn't know why this was an issue. I just, I've always just said, okay, I don't know, just set up a 2.4 gig network, right? This explains it. So band steering is directing the device to say, try the 5 gigahertz network, and the device says, okay, I'll try it, and then it doesn't work. So Jerry, have you seen that, or was that you had shaking your head? No, I couldn't tell.
No, I've never seen that before, and that's a great explanation of why that's happening.
I thought so too, and so they say, okay, go into your Unify settings and just simply check the box to turn on enhanced IoT connectivity. So I thought, oh, okay, that's cool. I'm going to try that on my guest network, right? So, because that's the device that's the network that my IoT devices are on. I just keep them on my guest network. So I just flipped on that switch for my guest network and, tried it. It didn't work, but I think the device actually crapped out for some other reason. I've got to contact them, which, by the way, this is supposed to be like no distraction. It just sits there and displays a status message. So you don't have to be distracted by your computer telling you about all this, but then now it's costing me time. It's not distraction free. It's distracting me and costing
Can
me
you get a bigger
so.
screen than that? Because what Joe's holding up, if you're listening to this, is about the size of a Kindle.
Yeah, I'm
No,
gonna
that's
ask them.
They have an ultra wide model, Joe.
Yeah, I need the ultra wide also while I'm at it, and then it's going to be too low
because it is
low
pretty
res for me.
small.
It is
it's
small, but yeah, I mean, it's cool though. Like the battery lasts like 6 months or something. It's just you can hang it on the wall.
They spelled terminal wrong too.
Yeah, so shortened,
God.
nice, Web 2.0 spelling of that. But I thought it was going to work just turning it on. What does that do, by the way? Well, Unify says turning on enhanced IoT connectivity limits this Wi-Fi network to 2.4 gigahertz only with special compatibility settings recommended if you're experiencing connectivity issues at 2.4 gigahertz. So here I was thinking this enhanced IoT connectivity did something else to work around this issue, right? But basically it just turns off 5 gigahertz and 6 gigahertz, and it just enforces that you only have 2.4 gigahertz enabled, and does quote special compatibility settings. So that's the part I don't know what that actually means. But that's just more info about that feature. So yeah, I'll let you know if it fixes it, but so far not.
I'm not going to buy one, Joe. Oftentimes on this show, you start talking about something. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And like mid show, I'll buy it.
Yeah.
And then like the MusicWorks device that I have from.
Yeah, he does hawk a lot of junk on the show. Have you noticed?
Yeah,
that?
I feel like Joe's making commission on some of this.
I'm
stuff.
not
making
I wish
bank.
I were. I've definitely like sold a few of those MusicWorks things to different people, like through my just recommendation, but I'm not getting anything for it. And anyway. We got to test those out sometime when you're here in person, Sam. You're coming in a couple months, supposedly, right?
Yeah, September.
Nice. Okay.
Man. I'll bring mine with me.
Yeah, bring it. We'll test them out. I don't even know what to do with them, but
that makes two of us. So.
I know. But
I'll bring the little instruction booklet and we'll figure it out.
There you go. That'll be fun. Well, you're not bringing your wife, right? So it's not like where the ladies are going to be just sitting there like, bored out of their minds. It's we could just peel off and do that. Just
men's night.
Us, so yeah, men's night. Some fun tech stuff. That's always fun. All right. Well, let's see. We're at the hour here. What do you guys have to wrap us up? Something humorous, perhaps?
I want to tell everybody, if you're watching this on YouTube, smash the like button. Smash it.
Smash it.
That's what all the kids say.
Push this button right here. Right here.
Yeah. Smash that like button. No cap. I don't know.
No cap.
If that makes sense, but yeah.
That's good. You got the Riz, Joe.
Thanks. Nice. I heard your show. That's why now I understand the reference you guys were talking about recently. Hey, we should just do a quick. Go ahead. You got something?
I was gonna say, speaking of young person's terms, my whole wife's nieces and nephews, they're in their like 20s, variety of ages. They all found out that I have a podcast. I think I was wearing my daughter was wearing one of our Command Control Power shirts because she loves them. Nice. And they're like, "What is that?" I'm like, "Oh, that's my podcast." They're like, "You have a podcast?" So a bunch of them apparently subscribed on YouTube. So we'll see if they listen.
Cool. Very cool. Awesome. Well, thank you everybody out there who listens, whether you're listening in your podcast app, whether you're going to YouTube and watching at home as well, so you can follow along when I hold up cool things to the screen like I'm doing right now. And also thank you very much to our patrons who support the show and really keep us motivated to keep doing this week after week. We literally have been releasing episodes every single week without fail. I think there's probably a few that were, we skipped a week, literally just a few though. In how many years is it now? Somebody must have
40.
this info out there. Yeah, 40. It feels like 40. I think it's honestly about 12 years, which is pretty freaking impressive. So thank you all for supporting us through all those years out there. And if you want to watch and listen live when we do a show like this, and get access to extra special patron-only shows where we talk about client issues that we otherwise wouldn't talk about publicly. We talk about staff management stuff. We talk about, I don't know, just all the behind-the-scenes stuff. You get a lot more value out of that, if I do say so myself. That is a feature for patrons, so please join us on Patreon and follow the show and pledge monthly, and you will get access to all of that. You even can get a discount if you pledge yearly. So we really appreciate that support. That's what keeps us motivated to keep doing this. You can find out more by going to Command Control Power and clicking on support to be directed to Patreon. And we really appreciate all your support, and for everyone listening out there to Command Control Power, thank you so much.